expenditures, additional expenditure funds to RIRA.
What do they want? Why are we giving them?
Why, okay. I believe that, RIRA does not have the ability to ask for funds in public purpose. Reason being is because they do us a very large service of vetting and deciding and interviewing and going through the whole process in order. Right.
What do they want the money for?
For all, I mean, there's a list of things, and all of them are for the public purposes that they, like, they help with the Roosevelt Island Day. I think Matt and Sherry, you can speak to it.
Sure.
As to exactly what the money is going to be spent on.
My understanding is that there would be not a specific grant for a specific purpose. This would go into the RIRA treasury for programs that we perhaps haven't even thought of yet. It would be a fund, an unrestricted fund, to be used as RIRA saw fit.
Except for the fact that it has to be restricted by a public purpose. They would have to inform us, obviously, of what it's being used for.
One quick thing. You know,
Well,
Matt,
I think what would happen is that we
Hold
would
on a second.
clearly... I'm sorry?
Just checking something. You know, this isn't personal, you know, no disrespect to you, but is there an officer of RIRA presenting?
Sitting next to you.
Yes.
But she's supposed to be presenting. Did you not?
Take it
you're
away.
Presenting
But
an
she
officer
brought
of
it- she
RIRA.
brought
I was specifically asked, so I'm speaking.
Okay.
Yes, that was my
Charlene
fault.
makes the
It's
chair
okay.
point, so go ahead.
And besides, Sherry has trouble expressing herself.
Yeah, so it's,
So true.
I mean, RIRA should have their officers representing what their
Quite
missions
right.
are.
Mike is right. Mike is right.
Not, you know, if I would, you know, I always call on you when you're president, but you're the officers of RIRA.
You've been heard.
I'm a civilian.
He's nothing
Yes, sir.
anymore.
No, just one
He's
point, just to
nobody.
pick up on a
He's
point, Charlene made, if I may, you know, in my understanding at least, and Charlene just clarified, is that wasn't for unrestricted use, that the use of the funds would be consistent with the mission, purpose, and duty that we as the Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation have. Sure. And that would be a restriction on the use of the funds.
Right. And
Unrestricted is certainly not what I saw, what I had in
No.
mind, I don't
I
believe that
think
you had
that
in mind.
possibly I have misconstrued it also as unrestricted. It comes to us, we put it in our treasury. We do programs. This will allow us to do more programs if we ever do the Cherry Blossom Festival again. No, I shouldn't. I whisper that one. But in any case, it's a good program. And if we do it again, we will have the money to do that. We will have the money to pay whatever fees we need to pay.
there's the
any
annual
other
blood
programs.
drive.
The blood
There-
drive.
yeah,
We
there's
do
first aid.
Breakfast.
the
classes.
breakfast, the Roosevelt Island Day breakfast.
Insurance
in-
fares for renters.
Right, whatever it is that, whatever programs we in the Common Council decide to put on through our committees, we will have the money to do that. We would, we don't have to worry about funding for those things.
This
And
group,
anything else we can think of.
this group is an island-wide group. They have many committees that oversee actions of not only us, about the residents, about complaints, about issues, and they have a number of programs, and all of that, it's unrestricted, and I can understand how it is being sort of somewhat misinterpreted, but it's a matter of semantics. It's unrestricted in that it's for programmatic uses and public purpose, island-wide programs uses. So it's unrestricted in that sense. I mean, if they divert money from the first aid class to annual blood drive, they need more money for that, they can do that. But that is all within that umbrella of public purpose. Again, this is an island-wide, it's not specific to the seniors, it's not specific to the children, it's not specific to daycare.
Yeah.
It is island-wide, and I think it's very important they do it. Plus, they do a service for us that they can't come in and ask for
Right, we
that.
probably shouldn't have you assist them in generating the properly formatted and controlled financial statement reports of how the money's expended, so we can just monitor that.
ahead.
And actually, it was told me that they do have an audit, RIRA has
We
an
will
audit
have an
every
audit
year.
every year, we have an audit.
They will submit it to us,
Yeah.
you know, without any
I'm just waiting
hesitation.
for the further blast of emails and other stuff that I need to give you, but, so just make sure that we just, I've always tried to promote community organizations because no municipality in an area can do everything it needs to do. It always requires, in every city, because I've had to move quite a few times over the years, streams of volunteers and people who are willing to commit time and resources to do these things, to make a community. So I just want to make sure that we're.
When I was president of the Residents Association, glad to see Sharon is here today. We threw a party, Island-wide party, excuse me. We raised about 5,000. We carried ourselves for 2 years on the $5,000. This was a number of years ago, so we would have charged more and made more. My point is that we have never directly funded RIRA, except in a couple of specific cases like voting machines and stuff like that, which is a necessity. We understand that. But the idea of underwriting RIRA's general operations, which is essentially what you're talking about here, because their operations are, in fact, the deeds they do. What monies did they use in the past for their blood drive? What monies did they use? Members of RIRA came to us after the Cherry Blossom Festival, and they had not made a good deal with their main suppliers, and so they ended up with no money to show for it, and they asked us to make them whole. And there was no basis for it. They just didn't make the right deal. RIRA has no limits on its ability to raise money if it wants to put in a little bit of effort raising money. As for the idea that they do us a service, no, that's backward thinking. We do RIRA a service by allowing them such major participation in the allocation of public funds. I used to do it all by myself. I didn't need a committee. That was wrong. It was wrong for me to do it all by myself. People would come and ask for money. The board delegated me to look at their request and see if it was valid and should be funded. And then I would, in a one-page letter, move that the board should or should not make the allocation. Well, that's when our public purpose funds were not properly delineated, I guess, would be the phrase I use. Now we know exactly how much we have to spend, and we have given RIRA the opportunity to participate. As I told Matt once in a public meeting, there's 3 political powers in America. There's the power of the vote, the power of the purse, and the power of jobs. In other countries, you get church power, army power, other kinds of power. In America, it's votes, money, and jobs. Well, RIRA has always had the votes. You know, people have 1,200 people showing up for an election. That's a pretty strong statement that you do represent, make the representation that you claim to. No jobs. We do the jobs. And RIRA now has some control over the money. And that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. Bottom line, I'm not opposed to funding RIRA, but I'm not sure that RIRA is doing enough of a job to raise their own money, despite the fact that Sherry manages to hit up every phone here and make good money from them.
Can I leap in for a second, because I was on RIRA myself. I
Sure.
was never president, but I was vice president. And we had a lot of fundraisers, and we raised a lot of money. However, times have changed now. That was back when the city council and Jessica Lappin would give the seniors $10,000 on a bus ride. All those that's kind of dried up now. The art gallery is running a gazillion things to raise money to be able to pay their rent now. So they're competing with the other organizations on the island for the same pot of money. And it's too small an island for them to be able to do that. Plus, we're charging. We're charging to use the space in the churches and stuff, which we never did before. So they've got to pay, they have expenses now that they didn't. So I agree with you.
Insurance.
And insurance.
Insurance, yeah. So
We never had.
they never had to do that before, so there's a lot more to it. And yes, it's good that they can participate in the public purpose funds, but by definition, it does take them out of the running for that.
That's a good
The
argument.
first movies that we had, I was on RIRA and I went in and I got public purpose funds to put those movies up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and they can't
It's a
do
good
that.
argument.
So the
I'm trying to find reasons to give them
Yeah,
the money,
that's-
but we
that's
have a
fine.
lot of precedent against, and we have a lot of, we're gonna be very open to criticism and comment if we just hand the money without discussing all the ramifications thereof. Now Sherry has something
There's
she
some
wants to
other-
add, I'd like to
yeah.
hear her.
Let me just mention that there's been a party that, just for the community, a big party that I've wanted to do for quite a few years, and RIRA, for the longest time, just didn't have the money to do it. Now there's some money, But of course, now we have to find the venue because Manhattan Park for a period of time was not available to us. That may become available, or it may be available. I know RIOC has their meetings there now. But there have been various, we've had our ups and downs. RIRA makes some money, and then we've spent it, and then we end up with nothing, and we have to start over again. So, as Margie says, we're in competition with all the other organizations that are now trying to get money from everybody, the same pot of residents. And what I'd love to do is spend this money and do more programs or do more parties or something where we can be inclusive of we can do things that include all the different groups on the island and feature our different residents and invite everybody to come celebrate our differences, but together. In terms of just in terms of ethnic groups, I want to make sure that we are very inclusive. That would be one of my goals, is to have events.
I would warn you in that area.
Well,
don't make the mistake that RICO did several years ago when we tried to set up a basic funding organization, and there was a couple people in an office here.
No.
Now, what happened there? Not those people. What happened there is that Frank Prisceno held a meeting for all the island groups to say, we're putting together this deal for you. And virtually every one of them, I'm going back a long time, but virtually all of them said, well, who are you to be putting together a deal for us? You're just going to lay down a thing on us from above?
No, that's not what I'm
Well, I hope
I'm not
you have to
quite
watch
sure
out.
what you're
It's a
saying,
trap
but
you can
that's
fall
not
on. Just
what
to warn you.
No, I'm talking about okay, my party,
Heed my
dream
words.
party is to do a Bollywood party.
Heed my words. Don't inflict stuff on people.
No.
Make it come up. Engineer your politics so it comes up from below.
I will always keep that in mind. One thing I would like all of you to know is that RIRA did have its meeting last week, and the vote was 18 in favor, 1 against, and 2 abstentions. So the Common
Was it a
Council.
public meeting? Was it a public meeting?
Yeah, the Resident Association meeting
was
on
against?
Wednesday. Who was against?
Who do you think?
There's only
Go wild
Mr.
guess.
No, I'm not going to make a wild guess. I'm asking a specific question.
I was there, Frank Ferencz.
Okay, thank you. What was his basis? Not that I pay much
Did
attention
you
to
get
Frank.
his
but-
email?
Huh?
Did you get
read
his
his
email this
email.
afternoon? We all got his email given him.
Oh, my computer's down this afternoon.
Oh, well,
Okay, well, I'll
somebody
study.
will supply you with
I'll
the email.
study on it.
Yeah.
There's one other objection I'm going to point out to you, which is that for 20 years, most of the Republican administrations, I did everything I could to keep RIOC off of RIRA. And those who listen to what I was saying over the years will bear this out. RIRA has always been the voice of the people of this community, in my view, has always been listened to on that basis, even if I didn't agree with a lot of stuff that was going on with RIRA. At the time, I would not let anybody interfere with the notion of a free and untrammeled residents association. If we give you money, does this mean we've bought you? Do we own a piece of you?
Well, not as far as I'm concerned, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty independent, and I think that most of the people in RIRA who are there would say the same thing. I mean, if RIOC were to start telling us, you can't do that or you can't do that, I would say give the money back. That would be my feeling. We'll go back to what we've been doing.
And the same case would be made for everybody would get public purpose funds too.
Yeah.
I believe, do we own Judy? I suspect not.
If you pay me more money, you
Excuse
can
me.
be a part
That's not a good argument. I hear you, Sean, but first of all, to some degree we do. She can't do much if we don't let her. But we let her, because she does good things for the island. But she's not a residents association.
No.
She's not. She's kind of an independent operator here.
Point well taken.
And a hell of a con artist.
I mean, $5,000 a year you give me.
But we also give a lot of money to other places, and one of the reasons that we're saying it is for public purpose is that we don't want to limit it to certain things so that we could pull that. It's sort of keeping an arm's length, as long as it's within the purview of public purpose, that the residents can decide what they want to do, rather than just give it to things that RIOC wants.
I'm aware also that, in fact, RIRA is the arbiter of how these monies are spent. They can't very well ask for money of their own. And that's also a pretty good argument.
Well, that, yeah.
And just like the other purpose, public purpose grants that we issue based on RIRA's recommendation, we receive reporting and we have to take review to make sure the monies are spent in accordance with the grant.
I don't think, since the board approves all public purpose expenditures, I think it has to be brought to the board meeting. You can't just give them the money. It has to be brought to the board meeting, and I will support it, but I'll expect to be roundly criticized, and I think anybody else who supports it will feel the same way.
Yeah.
And the mere fact that someone is related to someone who is on the Common Council is not a sufficient reason to recuse, because we're all members of RIRA. That's something that's never be forgotten. We're all members of RIRA.
And not to get philosophical, but the fact is,
Oh, go ahead.
okay, people pay taxes, it's their money. And then they give it to the government and say, spend it the way you see
Good
fit.
argument.
Now, we've got a RIRA, a residents association, that got elected by the people on this island, so we're giving them some of the money that the residents gave us and saying, go ahead and put up.
Yeah, it's their money.
It's their money.
Yeah.
It's not our money.
Yeah, as I say, every penny we spend, we get from the people here. That's allowed the Residents Association to
Well,
spend some of it on their own needs.
structurally, the main thing I'm worried about is that we make sure that we assist them as much as possible in the accounting and preparation of their reports, so that everything is considered kosher.
I don't distrust RIRA. Not one bit do I distrust RIRA. Certainly not Sherry, who is approved, or is a word.
It's not a distrust question, it's just,
I understand
we're gonna get,
We're gonna get hollered at anyway, we understand
Yeah.
that. But I also want to keep as hands off as possible, given the bounds of the responsibility for every penny we spend, devolves on us, it just does. So we better have good reasons, we better have our ducks in a row, and we better be ready to ignore all the people we usually ignore.
I mean, there have been issues with permits and et cetera. I think that has cleared up now, and we have a routine, and things are done a little bit differently. And with Frances here, she is very, very attuned, believe me, she's very attuned to making sure that everything goes according to file. The auditors are here this week, by the way.
What else is new?
Right.
We got orders in the house.
This is
Tell us when they don't.
the annual review.
I was gonna say that Sherry's probity is unquestioned.
I'm sorry?
That's what I was looking for. I was gonna say your probity is unquestioned.
I've often said so.
Matt, we looked at a little funny, he's a folk singer.
Right, he's
And rightly
not
so.
on the board.
He's on our mirror, we're okay.
But Michael's point is well taken, we want everything carefully documented, we need
well,
to write
it's
audit.
also, yeah, it's also that it's in the right, things are in the right format, that
And
we
it's
coordinate,
fully
yeah, so
disclosed
that,
and-
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So we don't have any,
please
to
give us
avoid any other issues, it's,
Right.
yes, everything's been accounted for and everything's fine, and we are confident that everything's done
Boys and girls,
right under our public
law.
law requirements.
This can be a real slippery slope, you better be aware of it, and I'm willing to take the step and see.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
For a lot of different directions, I really, people give me money, Sherry,